the new man. But you didn't learn Christ that way, if indeed you heard him and were taught in him, even as truth is in Jesus, that you put away as concerning your former way of life the old man that grows corrupt after the lusts of deceit, and that you be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and put on the new man, who, in the likeness of God, has been created in righteousness and holiness of truth. Therefore, putting away falsehood, speak truth, each one with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. Ephesians 4:20 through 26, Western English Bible. Modern-day people suffer from the fact that they speak in many languages. Since not all languages have the same signifier, then even the words in these languages lack the same expression, because all the nations find themselves in various stages of development. As a result of this, modern cultured people don't understand the original language, and they make mistakes when translating something divine. I ask, what is the divine language? Wherever you study geometry and algebra, in whatever nation you happen to study it, the rules are the same. As a Frenchman, as a Bulgarian, as a Russian, as a Japanese or Chinese person, you will always study mathematics according to the same formulas and rules. And so, I refer to mathematics and geometry as a correct interpretation of the divine language. And this is only in symbols. The basis from which geometry begins is the point. And in mathematics, it's the single unit, the number 1. Consequently, the person who can learn about the single unit will also be able to learn about all the rules in mathematics. And the person who learns about the point will also learn everything in geometry. All of you are familiar with the axiom in mathematics, where the shortest distance between 2 points is the straight line. Why, namely, is a straight line the shortest distance between 2 points? Because the straight line is formed from 2 intelligent points, and they are 2 beings who choose the shortest distance for their communication. And when they move toward each other, they form the straight line. Consequently, the straight line is nothing more than communication between 2 intelligent beings. The straight line in mathematics is the single unit, the one, which contains everything within itself. And so, all of you can form a straight line, but a person cannot form it by himself. You say, when a point moves, it will form a straight line. No, a single point cannot form a straight line, but 2 points need to move toward each other. That is, 2 intelligent beings. When they lend a hand to each other, that's how they form the straight line. Modern day people shake hands with their right hand. The right hand is the straight line that is formed from the human mind. The mind has united with man's heart, and it formed the straight line. All people who unite according to the straight line have correct deeds, whereas those who unite according to a crooked line have incorrect deeds. It is said in the verse, "Do not speak falsehood between each other." And so, I ask you, how do you want to unite with me? Along a straight line or a curved line? When the wolf approaches his prey, he never comes in a straight line. He always comes from behind it, and he catches it from there. When the 2 intelligent beings form the straight line, they join together and form the singular unit, the one. These 2 beings must now move in a new direction, in a right geometric angle, in which they'll form a plane, which is bordered by 4 points. And then, when we draw a diagonal within the square, we divide it in 2 equal parts, into 2 right triangles, which have a common hypotenuse. the diagonal, and the square. The hypotenuse shows the derivative force of the two quantities of the two cathetuses. In human language, when one says this, it means the father stands on one cathetus, the mother stands on the other one, and on the opposite one, on the hypotenuse, stands the daughter. Consequently, the hypotenuse in the equidistant force that regulates all relations in the world. So, the daughter is the one who regulates the relations between the mother and the father, because they are opposing forces who are after different interests. For instance, the mother and father cannot love each other because their relationship is based entirely on business interests. They say that some woman weeps a lot for her husband. You should give only 25% credit to those tears. These are also the tears of husbands for their wives. The wife says, "How I love you, I'm dying for you." Yes, she's dying all right. The square in the battlefield in the world, that is, the purely physical world, but the diagonal, the hypotenuse in it, shows that great law by which opposites are reconciled. The hypotenuse in mathematics is called a singular unit, a one, whereas in the divine world, God. The hypotenuse, the one, God. These are translations of the 2 points that move in order to form the straight line. Keep in mind that these two intelligent beings, after having moved towards each other in order to form the straight line, they created heaven and earth. That is, they created your Lord. Tell me, which philosopher, which theologian, which saint can say what the Lord is? Who can describe him? When I ask you, whoever takes the trouble to describe the Lord, it's because the Lord is not as we imagine and think of him. The woman is also not as the man imagines her to be. The man is also not as the woman imagines him to be. The fact that this is so can be seen. Once they marry, hardly a week goes by and the two of them are unhappy with each other. But they don't express their dissatisfaction. The wife is a little pensive, as is the husband. They're dissatisfied with each other. Why are they dissatisfied? Because there is no contentment to be found outside the individual person himself. The person who wants to find happiness outside himself moves in the realm of illusions. Consequently, after falling in love and marrying, the two youths become mirrors who reflect one another, and they grow dissatisfied with their mirrors because there is no life in them. This is the old teaching of deceit, where we lie to each other when we say we love each other. Isn't it strange when the mother christens her child before being born? But people nowadays christen their children before being born. They start looking for a name. The mother wants the child to be named after her. The father wants the child to bear his name. The daughter wants another name. An argument arises. Do not talk about the child. It has yet to be born. Do not speak falsehood with one another. Speak in a positive way about things. Speak about the child's name only after being born, and after it forms. Before the child is born, be silent. This is why in Eastern science it is said that one must be silent, and those who don't understand this profound mathematical language are taught to be silent. Now there are both the old and young people who study silence. Well, good. Can you keep silent when you're hungry? I understand if you're silent when you're satiated, but when you're hungry, you will speak according to all the rules. You'll solve all kinds of mathematical problems. You'll talk to your stomach and ask it, "What do you want, brother?" "I'm hungry. You're wiser than me. Do me a favor." "Moreover, you're outside, but I'm inside." You reply to your stomach, "The circumstances outside are not favorable." You love me, don't you? Give me a favor. Otherwise, both you and I will suffer. What is the straightest line? The shortest distance that food travels through? The throat. Sometimes doctors feed the sick in other ways too, but these are not natural. Paul, who was both a mystic and an occultist, in the aforementioned verse says, "You have clothed yourselves with the new man, who is renewed in knowledge, in the image of him who created him." Now I will ask you again, as you listen to me, to free yourselves from any kind of constriction, because I see that you're constricting yourselves. When a young woman loves a young man, she's afraid to express her love. The same happens with the young man. Love that constricts itself, which is afraid to express itself, is not love. However, if it also expresses itself too much, again, it's not love. It would be strange if the candle didn't give light. We wouldn't hide it under a bushel, says Christ. However, we wouldn't go to the other extreme and expose the candle to a draft. Now I will ask you, why is the equidistant force necessary? Have you ever asked yourselves the question how hatred arises, deceit in the world, why people lie and hate? Christ says, love your enemies. He based this on an internal law. This, in our view, is unnatural, to love your enemies. Hatred always arises from the mind. The mind creates it. Take away the beloved from any young man, and immediately hatred will appear in his mind. When you take away his love, with which he can form a straight line, a curved line forms. Hatred appears. Consequently, hatred reveals the absence of love. Then how can we heal hatred? Give the young woman to the young man. Return her to him. But you say, how can we give this nice woman to this unworthy young man? Well, what young man is worthy enough in the world? In my view, if a young man is worthy in the world, everyone is worthy. If one of them is unworthy, all of them are unworthy. This is the mathematical law. All young men are under one signifier, but they just have different classifications. And all young women are under one signifier, but with different classifications. In order to explain this idea, I will give you an old occult story that is found throughout all the nations. When God made the worlds, he was interested in seeing how people lived on earth. So he went somewhere in the east, where he found a learned Brahmin. The two of them set off across the world. The Brahmin asked the Lord very profound questions. They reached a place, and the Brahmin said, "Lord, I'm very thirsty. I want water." "We'll ask this cattle herder over there. He'll tell us where there is water," the Lord replied. As the oxen of that cattle herder grazed peacefully in the field, the cattle herder lay down on the soft grass, put his feet up, and whistled. The Lord asked him, "Is there any water nearby?" He pointed with his foot where there was water and continued whistling. "What a lazy man this young man is. He doesn't look up, but points out to us where the water is," says the Brahmin. This cattle herder whistles and thinks of his beloved and says, "The Lord is within me. I do not acknowledge him from without." When they walked a little farther, they saw a young, slender young woman carrying water with a yoke on her shoulders. The Lord says to the Brahmin, "Do you see that young woman? I'm going to give her to the cattle herder." "But he doesn't deserve her." "No, he is the best young man. He deserves her," said the Lord. From your viewpoint, you will say, "The choice is incorrect." Tell me, what is the right choice? I would like to meet a young man and woman who never murmured against each other, both before their marriage and after their marriage, throughout their entire lives. and were willing to sacrifice everything for each other as they would for God. Are there such people? No. Everyone grumbles. Men and women say to each other, "Oh, this devil woman deceived me. I've been cheated." Why do they feel cheated? Because their interests aren't in conjunction. Deception arises from opposing interests. Upon marrying, the young man wants to have a son. That is, he wants his image to be the first one to come out into the world. Woe to him if he has a girl. He then says, "Oh, it's a girl. A woman was born." If the mother, however, wants a girl to be born, but a boy is born instead, she is unhappy. They don't express their dissatisfaction before other people, but otherwise both of them are dissatisfied. And thus, both the mother and the father are corrupting their child's upbringing. This dissatisfaction, regardless of how small it might be, has an influence on the future development of the child's heart and mind, driving him toward future crimes. Why? Because the child's parents aren't created in the image of knowledge. Because the parents of the child are not created in the image of knowledge. It doesn't matter who came to the world first, the boy or the girl. Tell your child, "Welcome here," and be grateful. In the first creation of man, who was made in the image and likeness of God, the son and the daughter were born at the same time. And in the second creation of man, the son was born first, and the woman, the sister, was born last, having been made from her brother's rib. You will say, "This is a little strange. We know that Adam is the first man, the father." No, Adam is no father at all. God is the father, and he removed the rib from Adam. In Scripture it says, "Whoever loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me." And it means, whoever loves the outward form more than myself, who creates everything, is not worthy of me. The son that you have here on earth is only your son in form. You have another son, another daughter. Who are they? They are created in the image of God. They have knowledge. And if they come here on earth, they will bring such love that both the mother and the father will be happy. And so, the square forms the home, the birth of the two children. And when this home moves, society forms. The cube forms. If all the sides move, that is, all the planes on the cube, where will it go? It will move in the opposite direction by the path of the line. When the sides of the cube move from the outside in, a straight line is formed. The two opposite sides of the cube form a straight line, one singular unit, and the other two opposing sides form another straight line when they move, a second singular unit. These two singular units come into collision, and when they can't go either in one direction or another, they form the letter T. That is, the square forms. Consequently, when one says you have to look inside, this implies the fourth dimension. Some want to say that the spiritual world is outside, but it's inside. You will concentrate your mind inside as you project it. I don't want to dwell on this. I don't want to explain to you where this world is. You know this world. When you say you don't know it, you proceed like the young woman who wants to test the young man whether he loves her or not. She knows. If he loves her, there is nothing to guess. And if he doesn't love her, once again, there's no need to guess. In the first case, the mind shows that there are manifestations. There is love. If he doesn't love her, this shows that the mind and heart are not united together, meaning that the mind doesn't have what it needs. This, namely, breeds dissatisfaction. Check this law. Take any toy from your child and dissatisfaction will arise in him. All the dissatisfactions in the world are always of a material nature. People want houses and lands. You will say, how can we fix the world? Give every person the things he needs. That is, give the human mind something to work on. Do not stop man's mind from activity. In my view, if the young man and woman are spoiled, I will marry them. If they continue being dissatisfied, I would give them a house and fields. If they're still dissatisfied, I would give them vineyards, a cart, and in the end, when these things begin to speak to them, they will be satisfied. This is a great law. If the heart and mind remain without desires and without thoughts, you will be dissatisfied. Consequently, the heart and mind need to be occupied with something. And so, observe the first law, not to stumble any person in his development, and not to think that so-and-so is unworthy of this or that. No, every person, according to his understandings and conceptions, is worthy. If, according to your mind, you find that someone is unworthy, you stumble yourself. I speak of these things as mathematical quantities. Every thought that manifests in the mind and every desire that appears in the heart is in its place. A crime will take place only when you stumble the mind and heart of a person in his development. When we trace back modern society, we see that all crimes arise, namely, from this place. For instance, a husband and wife live a good life somewhere. Some man comes to them who was unable to find himself the young woman he wanted, so he casts an eye on this foreign woman. A second one comes, a third man. They cast an eye on the same woman. These men start fighting amongst themselves for this woman. They compete against each other, but she's indivisible. A fourth man comes, and he becomes a rival. Then she says to these men, "Wait for me to give birth to 4 daughters. I'll marry off all of you." And this is how she will reconcile them. This might seem a little funny to you. You will say, all these stories don't resemble anything religious. I ask you, those religious forms which we had until now, of what use have they been to the world? If they were as harmonic as they ought to have been, would there be as much suffering as there is now? There is something that lacks harmony in them, something unpolished that brings evil into the world. But we ourselves have to iron out these things. Some say I'm not orthodox. How would you determine whether I'm orthodox or not? We have a singular unit with which we have to measure everything, and that singular unit is the God of love and wisdom. Consequently, when God manifested in love and wisdom, he formed the singular unit. The singular unit, the one, is man. When this singular unit, this one, divided, man and woman formed. Or, in other words, God removed one singular unit, or one curved rib, from man. The woman, when she was inside the man, she curved and became crooked. Hence God took her out from there and said to her, "You will no longer walk crooked like this, as you did while you were in the man. From now on you'll walk straight." But since she knows her old habit, walking in a curved fashion, she always shows her rib. She always hugs. She'll cover something like a curved rib. And so, today the ribs are always hugging, saying, "Oh, my little bird." But the world doesn't move forward. No, we don't need such hugs made out of curved ribs. No hugs. If 2 youths who love each other meet, they shouldn't hug, but they should unite in a straight line, even without coming near each other. They will kiss each other and immediately move away. All the kisses, accompanied by hugs, are curved ribs, which always have bad consequences. I am telling you this both symbolically and literally. In other words, your thought and your desire should never be divided. You have a certain desire, but you say, "It might be a crooked desire." There shouldn't be any division. If it's crooked, don't bring it out into the world. You must be absolutely true to yourself. When you express a wish or a thought, no doubt, not even a crack of it should remain where you believe you did some deed of which you are ashamed. If I meet a young woman on the street who has a crooked mouth and I kiss her, and her mouth straightens out, would the surrounding people judge me? No. But if I meet a beautiful young woman and her mouth becomes crooked after I kiss her, what would the people say? They would say, "Look at this dirtbag." You are smiling. But how many young women's mouths did you turn crooked? And what about you, women? How many young men's mouths did you turn crooked? And what about the rest of you? Now you will set about straightening out the mouths of all the people whom you turn crooked by kissing. This is the only way that you can iron out your mistake. This is the divine teaching. I speak to all of you. You should know that there isn't even one righteous person among you. Don't say, "I'm not so sinful today." Whoever boasts of this boasts of his sins. One sin and 100 sins are equal. One flea gives rise to 100 fleas. So 1 and 100 are one and the same thing. And so they say about someone, "He is orthodox, he is an evangelist, or he is a man of the new teaching." It doesn't matter what kind of person you are, but if this teaching distorts your mind and heart, and then when you adopt this philosophy and go to all the fields, see what is there. And when you come back, you are unhappy. What use is this teaching to you? A lady from Deunov said the following thing to me. I went to all the fields in heaven. I saw gods and goddesses, but I don't want to live among them. Heaven isn't worth even $5. All the gods and goddesses came to me. They brought me chariots, bouquets. They tell me I'm this or that, but these are all empty words. They're fooling me. I don't want them. This woman saw the old world, the old heaven, the old mental and astral world. She saw the negative things in these worlds, and hence she felt disgusted. This woman says, I want to live on earth, so my heart can grow warm there. Everyone says this woman is mad, and her husband even wants to take her to the madhouse. No, she's very wise. She's on the path to salvation and says, I don't want to live as I lived until now. The object of love is truth. Keep in mind that true love cannot awaken in you until you love the truth. Now, as I am speaking to you, I am going to perform an operation on you. I want you to be heroes, to endure it without anesthesia. I can do the operation with anesthesia, but this will be reserved for cowards. I will stick the knife in, but make sure you endure. Don't say, oh. When I perform this operation successfully, you should remain satisfied. During this operation, you must remove falsehood from the world. But in order to succeed, you must love the truth. If you don't love the truth, falsehood will surely appear. It is inevitable. If a woman doesn't love a man, she will commit a crime. If a man doesn't love a woman, he will commit a crime. You have to love someone. This is the law. Even if it's the smallest thing, you have to love. It can be a fly, a beetle, a flower, a bird, but you must love it. If you can love everyone, that would be the best. You will initiate love starting from the truth. When you start from love towards the truth, you will form a standard by which you will measure everything in the world. You have to put on the new man who is renewed in knowledge, in the image of him who created him. You must have knowledge. I would advise you to read all the good books written so far. It may take you 1,000 years, but that's fine. You'll read them, and then you'll tackle this book that has been opened for you, the Bible, the Gospel. Those brothers who wrote this book described the earth in its past phases. Do you know what the earth was like before? What the solar system was like before? There were pathways and communications between all these planets through which the inhabitants of one planet communicated with the inhabitants of another. These planets revolved around themselves and also around their original sun. It is said that something arose between the planets, which became a cause of strife, causing them to assume their present disposition. The sun settled in the center, and the other planets began to orbit around it. Let us, however, leave aside these occult claims, which are irrelevant to the matter at hand. But this movement of the planets and of the entire solar system shows what man was like from within, even in the earliest ages. The sun is an emblem of the human mind. Venus is the emblem of love. Mars is the emblem of man's strength. He is warlike. Saturn is the emblem of justice. Jupiter is the emblem of all religious forms that now exist. And the moon is considered the emblem of imagination, the mother in whom all ideas are born. These external symbols are emblems of that inner state which has disappeared today because of the disharmony between man's feelings, mind, and will. The communication between them is incorrect. Sometimes you want to express yourself, to love someone, but you say, "The present time doesn't permit this, and besides, he might deceive me." Do you really think love has to fear deceit? No. When the sun rises, it shines equally in all beings, despite the fact that they commit crimes. The crimes exist inside our imagination, through which we create this external disharmony. You hate someone and think that he will do something bad, and by doing so, you create evil. In the divine world, there is no such disharmony. But in the external world, in all beings, little blisters appear which they put various medicines on, and these cause some problems. Whoever causes this disharmony, when the illness is cured, it returns to him. But you ask, why was the world created like this? The world was made very well. It was created in the embrace of love and wisdom. In order to check this, we can make a real attempt. What would it consist of? All contemporary religious people say, we should run away from the earth and go to heaven so we can live. Similarly, all the slothful people in this world always talk about riches. I hope my father dies. I hope my mother dies, or my brother, so they can leave an inheritance for me so I can live. The same people debate politics. I hope they give us these lands or those lands. And they're always grabbing. However, this land that everyone is arguing over is given to us by the Lord as an inheritance to all of mankind, and it doesn't belong to any nation in particular. If you had this divine love and wisdom, all of you would make use of the goods from the earth. I am turning your attention so you can repair your old sewage system, so you can renew your old connections the way God made them. The man who deceives a woman by taking her away from her husband, by promising to give her all his love, she agrees, but when she grows old, he pushes her away, and, tattered and exhausted, she returns to her husband and confesses to him. The prodigal son does the same. He spends everything and returns to his father barefoot and naked. There's a law at work here, which you have to understand. It manifests in the following concept. If the first person cannot give you love, the second one will never be able to. If the first thought doesn't bear fruit, the second one will never be able to. From evil comes evil. From good, good. Distinguish between love and faith. Love created the human heart, whereas faith is capable of forming the mind. It prompts it. That means all the juices of the mind reside in faith. If you want to be intelligent, you have to have absolute faith and not beliefs. You need to have faith. But in what? In the first cause of love, because it is intelligent. When God expresses his love, he thinks through things very well, and then he says them. Consequently, in this manifested love, everything is holy, pure, intelligent. All the conditions for the development of your mind are found there. This love is not blind, but if you enter this world without love, without faith, you will create disharmony within yourselves. You love someone, but you doubt whether he loves you. In every form, in every person, only one God lives. That is, all the forms, all the beings are carriers of one singular unit, one God. If you love God, he will never lie to you. But if you doubt him, you will experience much bitterness. This is why it is said that God will test his love on all the beings who do not lie to him, who love him. Now, you might ask me, well, what's the conclusion of everything you said? What should we do? No, I don't lock anything. I don't make conclusions. I unlock things. The crooked logic says, give the conclusion. We always suffer because of conclusions. Logic says, man is a creature with 2 legs. Therefore, every creature with 2 legs is a man. These are logical conclusions. The straight line is the shortest distance between 2 points. The singular unit, the one, is the foundation of all other singular units, all the ones. But how is it that this dead unit can form other singular units if it lacks intelligence? Consequently, the first singular unit is intelligent. It can multiply. It can be fruitful. The sun is also a singular unit. Do you know what kind of culture the inhabitants of the sun possess? You will say, are there people on the sun? Yes, there are much more intelligent people there than you. The most simple-minded beings on the sun are 100 times wiser than the wisest people on earth. Draw your own conclusion. How much higher will the smartest beings there stand above the smartest ones here on earth? You will say, the sun is in a fiery state. How do these beings live there? As you can see, these beings are so smart that they can live in fire, but we cannot. Is there a greater fire than love? When some young woman loves someone but doesn't know how to love, she says, this fire burned me. The burning shows that elements in opposition to each other cannot love. Hence, they'll burn. When it is said that all sinners will burn, it's because they cannot live in the fire, whereas the righteous ones can. When it is said that the earth will pass through the fire 7 times, sinners say, let's hope this fire doesn't pass during our time. No, this fire is coming now. Now. You will pass through this fire 7 times, both men and women, young men and young women alike. Those who are ready will kiss each other in a straight line, but those who are not ready will gnash their teeth, which is the curved line. There shouldn't be gnashing of teeth, but everything should be along a straight line. Some say there will be gnashing of teeth in the other world. You resemble the servant Stoyan, who was sent by his master, a priest, with a letter and 5 nice fish to the other priest. The priest wrote in his letter, "Reverend, I'm sending you 5 nice fish with my servant." When Stoyan walked along the road, he ate them little by little, until he ate all of them, and sent only the letter to the priest. He read the letter and asked him, "Stoyan, there are 5 fish here." "Ah, did you see them, old priest? My heart trembled with fear because they weren't there." And now everyone finds out about their missing fish in their letters. The young woman reads the letter. "My dearest, I sent you 5 nice fish. I love you very much." "Yes, but the fish aren't there. They're lost." The young woman rejoices, but this is not love. The fish, the fish. The letter is not the only place where he loves you, where he says he's ready to do everything for you. This is trickery. I observed a young woman who was reading a letter from her beloved. She completely brightened up. Then she put it close to her heart. She rejoiced. "Yes, but the fish aren't there. Stoyan ate them. Do you know who Stoyan is? He's the devil. Do not let the devil carry fish, nor should you let him write letters. When birds love each other, they don't write any letters to each other, but they meet, they kiss, and they part. The young man, on the other hand, passes by the young woman's house. He suffers because he doesn't see her. He writes her a letter. If he doesn't know how to write, he hires a letter writer and lets him write a letter that is copied from some that are already written. He writes to her, "Ever since I saw you, I can't sleep." I tell the young woman, "When you marry, you also won't be able to sleep." I would write like this: "My dear beloved, ever since I saw you, I began to sleep during the night. But before that, I couldn't sleep. By the grace of God, I hope to always sleep like this forever and ever." The husband leaves for somewhere, and his wife writes, "Ever since you left, I can't sleep. I'm restless." The husband writes the same thing. This is not science. The wife must write like this: "Ever since you left, I'm very calm. Don't be in a hurry to return. Make sure you complete the task for which you went. May God bless you." And the husband should write the same to his wife. Yet both the husband and the wife are unable to sleep, and their task is incomplete. The devil ate her fish. These are faulty conclusions, faulty feelings, from which nothing good can come. I'm not laughing at your feelings, but I'm saying this is a foolish condition. The wife needs to rejoice because her husband went to work, despite the fact that she sometimes experiences sorrow. But she shouldn't send this to him. Rather, she should pray for him and send him nice thoughts. This law must work among you. Yet you gather and say, "Hey, when will I get rid of this neighbor of mine?" There's no getting rid of him. You're in hell. In order to get out of there, you must free yourselves from lying and arm yourselves with the truth of love. Then Christ will say, "My beloved, you no longer lie," and he will stretch out his hand upon you. The Lord also proceeds like this. You say, "Lord, I feel very tormented." He says, "I'm pleased that you have gone away from me, so you can learn what torment is. But when you free yourselves from the lies, I will stretch out my hand in a straight line and save you." This is the truth. To move along a straight line, the truth only has one dimension. It's a foundation for all other singular units. The point is like the singular unit, the one. It's the beginning of all other singular units. Observe how people weave. The weaving occurs in a straight line. All the points go in 3 directions at the same time. Apart from this movement, there are other movements that you don't see. They occur in your thoughts and feelings. All the beings, from the smallest to the biggest, are in motion. So all of us go according to the rhythm of this divine law. You cannot stop for even a second when you are on your path. If you stop, you'll upset the entire divine world. No, you shouldn't stop, even when you suffer. Say, I rejoice because I suffer, even when you find yourselves shackled to the biggest chains. Or, when they spit at you, say, I rejoice because I'm shackled. I rejoice because they spit at me. It's better if they spit at you than if they didn't spit at you. Life without spit is more terrible than life in hell. This is why Christ says, Blessed are you when people speak all these lies against you. Rejoice because your reward in heaven is great. That is, in the world of harmony. So now, if you're waiting for this world to be fixed from outside, nothing will happen. No matter what kind of government comes from outside, it too will slaughter and hang people, as the others did before. The world needs to be fixed from the inside. Everyone must reach the consciousness that they are brothers, and they need to straighten out their flaws. Now we are frightened. What are you afraid of? From your deeds. There was a time when people made their own idols. They sanctified them and bowed to them. They prayed, and afterwards they began to fear them. They would say, Oh, Baal, don't do us any harm. Put a hammer on this Baal. You don't need any idols. You don't need any Baals. We must descend into God, who created us in his image and likeness. We must come to live in love. Only in this way will you be able to solve all scientific problems. And there are such great problems standing before you, waiting to be solved. The earth will change. It will be rebuilt. New elements, new suns, new planets will appear. All the oceans, all the cities that you see right now will be swept away. The churches and the schools too. The archaic remnants of the past will rule the world. Then a new great science will come, which will rearrange all this into something orderly and harmonious. We shouldn't feel sorry for this. Should today's students feel sorry for the long wooden sticks from before, with which their teachers used to discipline them? The earlier teachers used to say to their students, Sticks, they need sticks. The best stick is love. The best stick is faith. These are the sticks that need to be used now. When you wedge a person between love and faith, you'll be able to fix him. But nowadays, the people discipline each other by spanking. No, this is merely an act of shaking the dust off. This is how the dust can be cleaned. With their current system, modern-day people resemble our women, who take the broom in the morning, and they go from room to room, cleaning and sweeping. They say, We swept. Yes, but after this, the rooms are filled with thousands upon thousands of dust particles, which weren't there before. Now a preacher comes and says, The people need to live like this. The people need to live like that. All this needs to be cleaned. The windows need to be opened in order for the dust to go out. The dust must go out of our minds. In the future, we need to create the new life in Bulgaria, and not to think as the English do, and we must harness our thought with love. As a nation, the Bulgarians cannot create anything greater than the English. If it were possible, they would create the same culture. Today, the white race has reached its highest development in the image of the English and the Germans. It cannot rise any higher. They created something powerful. But if that power of the mind isn't harnessed with love, it will bring destruction. A struggle in the economic sense competition for who can have more. But this is a process of destruction, a process of decay. This process is foreseen in nature itself. Hence, the whole of mankind will begin to move in a new direction. Now the time has come when all intelligent men and women do not think, "Does God love me? Does he hear me?" as they twirl their thumbs. Which God? He's within your heart. They say, "No, the Lord is in heaven." But heaven is inside us. I have seen some pious Christian or some monk with a huge stomach standing numbly with his hands folded over his stomach saying, "I believe." This means, "I believe in my potbelly." He goes to the bishop and says, "Holy bishop, I believe in the same things you believe in." "All right, may God bless you." I'm not talking about potbellies, but about the human soul, in which there are noble thoughts and feelings. The hands should not be on the stomach. If your beloved comes and holds his hand on his stomach, it means, "Do you have money? I will sacrifice you for my stomach." If the young woman also folds her hands the same way, it means, "Are you ready to sacrifice yourself for my potbelly?" No, the hands shouldn't be on the stomach. They need to be free. The two of them should sit next to each other and ask one another, "Are you ready to sacrifice yourself for me in the name of love? I don't want a dowry. I don't want money or a house. I'm taking you as you are." And the young woman should say the same. This is how the two of them should make their nest by themselves, and they should nurture it with work and labor, and lay their eggs in it. I refer to the eggs as the ideas and desires. Then the Lord will say, "This nest is blessed. I will send my son, my blessed spirits, so they can bring all the blessings upon it and watch over their little chicks." I would like it if there were no more transgressions, even if this doesn't happen all at once. I'm not imposing everything I tell you, but I want it to happen voluntarily, so you can give full consideration to my words. Take only 25% of my words as absolutely true, and leave 75% aside. I am giving you a period of 1,000 years to fulfill everything I am telling you. Those who are not satisfied and want a shorter time limit, let them fulfill everything in 100 years. Others in 10 years. And those who are not satisfied with this one, let them fulfill it in 1 year or 6 months. I give others a time limit of 2 weeks, some 3 days, or 1 day. If there are some who are dissatisfied even with this term, I reduce it. 6 hours, 3 hours, 1 hour, a half hour, 10 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, 1 second. This is the smallest time period. Whichever one of you finds himself in the time limit of 1 second, he has his own worries. I gave you time limits of various lengths, so each person can settle for himself into his place accordingly. If you don't settle yourselves into place, that's your problem. The wind will come and settle you in. Hence, you shouldn't assume first place. Some people want to correct themselves after 1,000 years, yet they're sitting in first place, with their hands folded over their stomachs. I don't want you with your hands folded over. The right arm is the arm of wisdom. It was created to give blessings, whereas the left one was made to give love. When you stretch out your hands over someone, these are the forces you impart in him. When someone stretches out his hand over you, you can feel the entire blessing, or you could feel the entire curse of the world. You could become a conduit of evil, of hell, but you could also become a conduit of the good. So, that means you can try all the evils and goods. Before someone stretches out his hands, he should ask himself the question, am I connected to heaven or hell? If he's connected to hell, he should hold his hands on his stomach. But if he's connected to heaven, he can stretch out his hands over the poor, over those who suffer, so he can help them. Now, do some of you still want to live in the image of the old man? Do you know how many of your skins the old man flayed? Occultists say that in order to complete his development, man needs 777 cardinal reincarnations. So, this is the number of reincarnations in which the old man flayed 777 of your skins. You plowed his field so many times, and after all this, he flayed your skin. What did you acquire? Nothing. Now the living God who created you says, children, you have put on the new man who is renewed in knowledge. Live according to his precepts. When I observe you, I see that some of you love me very much. I know why you love me. You love me because I give. Some people come to me thinking they will be able to lie to me. You won't be able to lie to me. Don't love me just because I give. Let God manifest in you. Let whatever God imparted in you from the very beginning, when he sent you to earth, come to fruition. I would like it if divine thoughts and desires manifested in you, and not those which are your own second-hand thoughts and desires. You say, I love you. Do you know that those who love me the most have caused me the greatest mischief, whereas those who hated me the most have done the most good for me? I walked around Bulgaria, and the communists did the most good for me. Yet the priests say the biggest lies against me. They send spies to spy on me. Why do they want spies to come here? Let them come to me directly. I say, if Bulgaria accepts my teaching, it will become great. If it renounces it, it will fall. This teaching is for everyone, and not just for Bulgaria. I don't mean to say that this teaching ought to be referred to as Deunovism and accepted. It doesn't matter what name you will give it. The important thing is that this teaching preaches that all brothers and sisters should not blackmail each other, but love each other. This is what I want, and I don't want people to take my thoughts and distort them after 1,000 years, as they did with Christ. Mr. Deunov said this, Mr. Deunov said that. Mr. Deunov says everyone must love each other. But how should they love each other? This love is one. It's a truth that builds homes, families, societies, and nations. I would like it if people came to know this great God from whom they came. There is one will. It's the will of God. And there's no Mr. Deunov at all. And when one reaches divine love, then the names of everyone who worked for God will be written. However, this is a different external matter. Who was Mr. Deunov in the past? Nobody knows this. In the future, he may come under a different name. They will ask me, do you know whose teaching this is? It belongs to Deunov. They'll start telling me where he was born, who his mother and father were. He's a learned man. No, all people are stupid. Only God is learned. But this Deunov was a holy man. No, only God is holy. If divine love and wisdom reside in me, only then am I wise, learned, and a holy man. Saints who are devoid of divine love and wisdom aren't saints. Priests and preachers who are devoid of divine love and wisdom aren't priests. They're not preachers. By saying this, I don't want you to lash out at others, but I want you to show other people how you differ from them. So, Let us put our love into the truth. Let us put our impulse into thinking, into goodness. Let us create a new system, and then let us listen to that great voice of the living Lord. Let us hear what he is saying to us through the new teaching, through the divine science. And it's a science through which the heart can warm up, acquire a temperature of 35 million degrees, and the mind can gain such luminosity that everything can be seen through it. And by sending it out into space, the whole universe, or at least the whole earth, can be illuminated. A day will come when our homes will be illuminated by the light of the mind, and there will be no need for electricity. After 1,000 years, there may be only the beginnings of this science. After 350,000 years, there will be something more. And after 150 million years, this science will be almost officially accepted. You will say, "We feel discouraged when we hear about such distant times. The time periods and the long terms bring me joy. When I hear of short terms, I close my eyes. Time and space are divine laws. Where there is no time and space, that's where you find slavery. But where there is time and space, there's no slavery there." People say this world is spaceless. This is not true. The spaceless world created the one in space. Consequently, the spaceless world includes the one in space within, and it can always create it. So, the spiritual world is not spaceless, but it is spatial in both space and time. It's just that the time and space within it are not like our time and space. This is at odds with modern philosophical views, but apply love and faith as a principle, and don't be fooled. Embrace the desire to acquire knowledge of love and faith. Explore the whole world from one end to the other, and in the last resort, go to heaven. But learn what faith and love are so that you can say, "Love is the bond of perfection." Today, I send you away from the school with this great thought, not to hug each other, and whatever figures you form, be they pentagrams or hexagons or what have you, but they should be with straight lines. The numbers with which you work should be whole numbers, not fractions. Fractional numbers are for the other world. A person who plays around with fractions makes mistakes. When you take a person, but he thinks he needs to take the fractions with him, don't believe him. If you owe 1 lev to someone, but he thinks about some coins you might have forgotten, don't expect much from such a person. Leave the coins for the other world. The fractions are not values from this world. They are values belonging to the human spirit. On earth, one can work only with real values, and only with even ones. 2 times 2, 4 times 2, and so on. Can 7 people live on earth? They can't. Can 1 person live on earth? He can't. Can 12 people live on earth? They can. 13? They can't. 6? They can. So, put faith in your mind, love in your heart, that you may know God as a truth within you. Come to know God. Free yourselves from all old bondages, so when your beloved comes, you may know him. Do you know his name? You don't know. Scripture says that he will come incognito and is a being with a distinctive mind from yours. If you know the divine language, you will know him. You will understand each other. Your beloved has a special sign, and only those who have seen him will recognize him. You will say, "It's him." The sister will say, "He is my brother." The friend will say, "He is my friend." Everyone will carry this sign on his forehead, and there will be absolutely no lying. And that's how people will know each other. Now people say that the devil came into the world and placed a seal. And indeed, only two people put the seal on people, Christ and the devil. What is the difference between these two seals? I will explain the difference to you so as not to leave you in ignorance. The qualities of the seal of Christ, the seal of love, are love, joy, peace, long-suffering, meekness, humility, gentleness, goodness, faith, and temperance. The seal of the devil is 666, and the devil's attributes are fornication, lust, gluttony, jealousy, blasphemy, and so on. These are the qualities of the two seals that are now being stamped on people's foreheads. We understand these seals, and there is no falsehood in them. So both Christ and the Antichrist set their seals. Do not be afraid. If you see the seal of Christ in someone, give him your brotherly hand. If you see on someone's forehead the seal of the Antichrist, of the devil, go around him. Lecture held on the 13th of March, 1921.